So I've reviewed several 1080p HD webcams on the channel. Recently had one that filmed in 1080p 60 frames per second and even a 4K 30 frames per second webcam on the channel. Today we're checking out a webcam that shoots in 2K, so that 2560 by 1440 resolution, but it also shoots in 1080p 60 frames per second. We're going to check it out in this video today, coming up next.
It's a bird. It's a plane.
No, it's Gadget Inspector. Well, welcome to the Gadget Inspector channel, where we're into all kinds of drones and all kinds of gadgets. If you're into that kind of stuff, you are in the right place, my friend. Please consider subscribing to the channel and don't forget to click that bell. That way you'll know when I upload new videos. All right, let's get right into this. So right now you're seeing the 2560 by 1440 resolution on your screen right now. I'm going to film this entire video with the webcam. We're going to switch over to 1080p 60 frames in a few minutes. But first, we're going to just kind of talk about some of the specs, and I'll let you just kind of see what this webcam can produce. Now, so far, it looks pretty good to me. Highlights, as a lot of these webcams do, seem to kind of blow out the highlights, so it's a little brighter than I would like, but it's not terrible, it's not bad. And I like the sharpness of the video. Only thing that happens is when you upload webcam videos to YouTube, sometimes the compression will soften it up some. But what I'm looking at right now in OBS as I'm recording, the webcam looks really good to me. My skin tone looks proper. The whites in the back look white. Blacks look black. I think everything is spot on. Now, here's some specs. This webcam shoots in 1080p 30 frames, 1080p 60 frames, and then that 2K resolution 2560 by 1440 in 30 frames per second. It has an 80-degree field of view, and it also comes with a remote control that allows you to zoom in 3 times. Now, the zoom function only works in the 1080p 30 frames per second resolution and frame rate. So keep that in mind. But pretty cool that you get a remote control here that allows you to control that zoom in, zoom out. And I'll demonstrate that when we switch over to 1080p. I'm going to drop out my Audio Technica AT2020 right here so that you can hear what the audio sounds like from the native mics in the webcam. But before we do that, I always recommend get yourself a good microphone. This one goes for $99 out on Amazon. If that's too rich for you, I've done a few reviews on a few webcams that are budget friendly. I'll put links down in the description box for those, and also I'll put some cards up here. So if you're interested in checking out a budget friendly USB microphone, you've got some options. There's one I reviewed that was in the 40s and one that was, I believe it was 50 to 60 bucks. So that's reasonable. And you'll hear why you should get a USB microphone coming up in 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, now you're hearing audio from the native mics in the webcam itself. And I'm sure you hear the difference between what you're going to get out of a microphone like this, or even a USB microphone, and the native mics in the webcam. Kind of sounds like you're talking into a can, or talking through a can or something like that, right? Kind of muffled. There's some reverb you're probably picking up from the room that I'm in. There's no sound treatment or curtains or anything to kind of deafen the sound waves, you know, from bouncing off of the walls. So it is what it is. But if you're just using the webcam for Skype or Zoom or FaceTime, it'll work. It'll work. But if you're doing anything more than that, like streaming or YouTube videos or whatever, get yourself a good microphone. Okay, now we're in 1080p 60 frames per second. And as you can see, I am using a green screen now, just to kind of show you what you can do. There you go. Boom. We're good to go. And the green screen I'm using, I believe this one is by eMart. It's a portable green screen that it rolls underneath your couch or your bed. It's really convenient. So if you're interested in that, check the description box for a link. So yeah, I think the 1080p 60 frames per second looks really good. What do you think? I'm gonna give you that full view once again. So there we go, live and in color, 60 frames per second. Okay, you're picking up some of my green screenage there, but you can see some of the things you can do here. There you go. I think it's really cool what you can do with these webcams, and you don't have to spend a whole lot of money to do it. Let's check out 1080p 30 frames per second now, so we can see what we can do with the remote in zooming in and zooming out. Okay, now we're in 1080p 30 frames per second, and we're completely zoomed in now. I'm going to use the remote control to zoom out, and you'll get an idea of how far out you can zoom. So that's zoomed all the way out. We're going to zoom back in, and then you can just push the home button here. Boom, and that'll take you all the way out. Let's zoom back in again. I'll show you something else you can do. You can use these arrows here to move the frame around, just like that. I'm sure that could prove useful in some use cases. And then when you're done with that, you can hit home again. So there's some other controls here. There's a volume control. So I imagine you can turn the volume up on the mic. And then you can do a mirror flip like that. And you can mute the webcam, and you can actually turn it on and off from the remote control. Okay, now we're back in 1080p 60 frames per second, and a couple more things before we get on up out of here. This webcam does have autofocus, so let's go ahead and demonstrate that. There you go. I think that works well. And this one also has a 1/4-20 thread on the bottom, so you can mount it to a tripod. Hey, check out some of the other videos I've done on webcams up over here. And I'm also putting those budget microphones that I mentioned earlier over here as well. Later.